Good morning. I'm Arjen Zuijderduijn. I'm from Stedin, the Dutch DSO. And before we get into the flex, let's first introduce myself. That's a big picture. I'm a project leader. I'm not so much a software developer, so a different way of seeing at flex, but I think it's good to have different ways of looking at it today. I'm at Stedin now for 7+ years. And before that, I did a master's in management and in engineering. Can everybody hear me okay, so? Good, good. For those who don't know about Stedin, Stedin is a Dutch DSO, mainly operating in the urban areas in Holland. So we do both electricity and gas. And we have quite a good grid reliability as well. And we want to keep it that way, of course. So if we look at the situation at hand, I think everybody knows in the audience that we have quite a challenge ahead regarding renewable energy, EV, electric vehicles, and solar charging poles, and of course also changing households from the gas to more electricity-based household. Just for my interest, who of you have solar panels already installed? Some raise of hands. Electric vehicles? Okay. And full electric or heating? No gas at all? Oh, it's okay. So we can see quite a good representation of the numbers here. And I think when we get to stage in 2030, then the amount of numbers, the amount of hands will be quite higher than that. And you can see that already we have quite a challenge ahead. And already our area is quite turning into a yellow area. So yellow means that we have limited capacity left. And if we expand these numbers, of course, then it will be more and more yellow, amber, and eventually even red. So that's the situation at hand. And if we look at flex, basically we did a case study, a simulation here. The yellow bar represents a base case, 100 households. And when we did a demand response kind of simulation, we saw already quite a significant decrease in impact. That was quite good. So we added also favorable regulation on top of that. And you can see, again, impact decreasing, which is quite good. A microgrid has a slight impact, but we took them also into account. And basically, why flex for Stedin? And that's getting a more and more easy topic to talk and discuss about. Basically, it acts as a shock absorber. Not as a problem solution for the full problem and the full challenge we have ahead, but a shock absorber. So we can basically manage the first shock that's coming ahead of us. And it allows us to buy time and to get our processes in order to have a more efficient way of dealing with the capacity question that will be increasing the coming years. How do we see flex? Actually, there are two ways of looking at flex. First, and I see the slide's not really working quite well, but we have the implicit way of dealing with flex. And basically, that's the customer demand-driven way of flex. So you have municipalities, housing corporations, communities as such, who have a demand for something more than just isolating your house, PV, electric vehicles, but they want to join forces in a way and they're looking for solutions, answers. And many of those, they come to Stedin and ask, can you help us in a way that we can combine forces and ease your grid and optimize our usage and self-sustainability in a way. And of course, we want to help them, but we also are bounded by DSO laws, basically. So we can do and facilitate a lot, but we cannot do everything. So we're working really on a way to deal with this. Just see if the slide... Yeah, it works. Oh, that's great. Another way we look at flex is explicit flex. That's more the DSO-driven way of flexibility. basically, we just saw the areas which already have limited capacity. In those areas, we're looking at ways that we can basically unlock flex from big companies like heat stations or like GoPax, which is also one of the meeting of the speeches earlier during this European Utility Week. And basically, we can proactively balance the grid by either paying spreads between demand and supply, or that we contract one of a supplier or a service operator who can help us basically balancing the grid together with us, the DSO, and the TSO tenant. However, today, I would like to talk about more in depth on implicit flex. If I had half an hour, I could also do explicit flex, but Peter didn't allow me, so let's do only implicit flex today. What we've done, and maybe some of you already know, is that 2 years ago, my colleague Jan Pellis, also in the audience today, he, together with Energy 21, wrote a white paper on layered energy system. A layered energy system basically is a proposition, a concept, where we allow communities from bottom up to participate in the congestion zones at first, but also on the national imbalance market. So you can see different communities being normal households, like these. I have a pointer, that's quite cool. And also combined, normal households and commercial connections, or only commercial connections. And we want to enable those to create a local market in a way that they can join forces and that they together operate in a congestion zone, which can be 2 communities in one congestion zone or dedicated congestion zones. It should be scalable, it should be easy, and there shouldn't be too many constraints in here. And the gateway should allow them to basically interact with the national market and the wholesale traders. That was a thought 2 years ago. What actually is quite cool, that we found an area in Gorkum, which is basically the center of Holland, where 15 households are participating in this pilot to make this actually a practical example. Not only in theory and on paper, but also practical. And what I like about this picture are, of course I want to own one of those houses because it's quite cool, but there is diversity in the positioning of the PV. So already there is some balancing going on by making that design decision up front. And not all households have PV. So that's also something good. That creates supply and demand in a way. And then we went to the customers, the final residents, and we asked them, layered energy system, does it resonate in any way with you? Because it's a bottom-up approach that we do. And basically the answer was no. Not even my manager understood layered energy system. What's layered about it? Is it lasagna or what is it? I said, okay, we might need to think about rebranding this in a way that everybody resonates with this and that gets some more feeling about it. And together with our partners, ABB, Energy 21, and Ileco, former Enervalis, we rebranded it to LEF, Local, Energy and Flexibility. And for the Dutchies under us, LEF is also courage. Courage that you're a frontier in a way, that you're willing to take an extra step ahead of the market, willing to do some additional investments in time, in money, and in maybe a little bit discomfort. But to make sure that we can organize it in such a way that it becomes value for money, discomfort goes out, and we can make it scalable in a way. That's cool. Some facts I already mentioned: 15 households participate, 12 of which they have solar panels installed. 3 of those, ABB installed a 12 kilowatt hour battery. One of them have already included their heat pump to also deliver flex. And the heat pump also heats the water, so that gives a little bit of flex. You can also see the heat pumps are also increasing the following years, so that's a way we want to include those in a way that we can optimize and standardize the heat pumps, that they can all involve in this system. And we're getting there. The full Hoogdalem area has more than 100 households, so it gives you an idea of the area. The status that we installed, kind of hard to read, but we installed gateways already, all of the households, so they can take the metering values out of it and distribute it to everybody who needs it. But they also can steer the heat pumps and the batteries. The heat pump is updated and now able to deliver flex. And it was quite a difficult challenge because the heat pump was a legacy heat pump, so we need to really involve the supplier in there, but it worked. What kind of cool is that also the blockchain works. So it's a blockchain-driven pilot. We're together with EWF, the Energy Web Foundation. We enabled the blockchain to work in this. And this is actually, for EWF as well, a killer use case, they called it yesterday. And we're looking in ways where we can optimize it more and more and standardize it in a way that it becomes more and more easy to join in a pilot or in a community as such. The user interface, which I will show later. Our grid safety app, for me, really important so that we can maintain the level of comfort we have today, basically. So it is basically a gatekeeper. If you want to trade like an idiot, you want to really earn big bucks or whatever, we still have the possibility to secure our grid, which is our job, of course. And a market service app. So that's basically open source software, which becomes available next year on GitHub. And it is a market principle design which allows everybody to enroll their bids. It matches the bids on supply and demand and basically gives you a market program in a way that you can start interacting and trading. The near future, and this is really near, this is actually early next year, we want to have all batteries operational. We want to include all heat pumps, of course. We want to add some gamification because user engagement is quite difficult, as you might conclude from the next slide. A mobile app, still a web app, and that's not very user-friendly. I want to get involved even when I'm in Paris, so let's make a mobile app of that. I want to add real financial transactions. Let them feel the financial value of the pilot, actually. Good news is we're live. So as of the 9th of September, all households are involved in this. Actually, the financial part isn't live, but the operational part is. And as a DSO, I like that, of course, because now I can already start trading flex, which is good. To give you a short oversight, and we can discuss this more at the Dutch Power stand later today. ABB is responsible for the hardware, being the smart energy module. iLeco creates the user interface and the algorithm, which basically corresponds with the day ahead trading, so makes a forecast. We are responsible for grid safety, Energy Web for the blockchain, and the residents are the key players in this, of course. How much time do I have left, Peter?
See it on the screen.
Oh, I'm quite fast, so we have some time for questions. That's good.
2 or 3 minutes.
A quick glimpse of the user interface. This is the basic view, as you can see on the there. And when we launched this user interface, the residents, some of them are software engineers, so they can easily understand this, and already were thinking out loud about building algorithms to gamify this or game this. But others weren't so far ahead yet, and they didn't even understand how to connect to the Wi-Fi. So it's really a hard mix of people, but represents the actual status in our grid what we have with the actual residents. So this is basically the KPI dashboard, showing your KPIs and the community KPIs. And if we go to the advanced, more nerdy view, then you can see basically your forecast of supply and demand of energy. And the red line indicates the apex price. So you can also see if I trade above the apex, it wouldn't be matched because your peer traders, they can buy it from the apex. So there's no incentive there. So always be below the red line. That's basically the trading thought. Some challenges ahead, and I'm really eager to get in touch with you guys if you have any thoughts, especially on the right assumptions. But first take the left one. we can see that the layered energy system fits the need of the emerging energy communities. So in a way, we see that the question we already got is from all those communities outside Gorinchem. For example, The Hague, Eemnes, Amersfoort, Woerden. For the Dutchies, quite known. For all the rest, sorry. But there are municipalities who actually want to have the same. And already we have account managers coming and ask us, can we do something there? So we can see that they really resonate with the less thought, or the left thought even, and they want to have the same already. Everything is technical feasible, but it's fun if you can verify that assumption, that it is feasible even with the blockchain. And we had a discussion with EWF yesterday, and we can even go one step further to make things more easy to join, so that we can add, for example, assets, standalone assets, connect them to the environment, and they can trade on their own. So that's making things more easy and really decreasing the boundary to join in this environment. We still have some work ahead of us, of course. Then maybe next year we can update on the gamification, etc., etc. But the main thing I want to focus on is the standardization. So we're together joining with the Flexible Alliance Network, which is an initiative with the Dutch DSOs and TSOs and commercial parties who want to join and have solutions. And basically we want to standardize the LES concept in a way that it is easy to download and same everywhere. So you don't have a lock-in, you're not bound to anything, and it's also something we need to do as per the regulation of the EU, the Clean Energy Package. But also there's a call for action to all heat pump suppliers to basically standardize their protocols, so that we can involve all heat pumps, which will also increase significantly in the coming years, into the system, which is something, it's an opportunity in a way. And the last assumption is less, and that's where I really want to get in touch with you. Is it the most optimal way to unlock implicit flexibility? Are there other learnings from other countries, other DSOs, other commercial parties who can help and can optimize the system? Because we're open for it. It's innovation, so we don't know it yet, and everything is learning, pivoting, and making sure it works. But in a way, we're open for discussion. So I hope to see and meet you at the Dutch Power stand later today. And to conclude, this is the white paper, which is easy to download if you scan the QR code, and is also available at the Dutch Power stand. So thanks for your attention, and I hope to hear from you.
Thank you, Arjen. I'm really impressed by a really open-minded and positive approach to find a new role for grid operator in the future energy system. We have a little time for questions. I'm sure there will be some questions. Yeah? Can we please move the catch box? Or throw? Or
Hello, František Vlašek, Energy. It's a great presentation, thank you. My question would be, how is the business case of the system, and if you realize some real savings of grid connection fees before and after?
So of course we're on Monetizing Flex, right? So it was the question on everybody's mind, and that's still something we're looking at. So of course our metering tariffs, so there will be an symmetry between prices of solar power that you return to the grid and power which you buy from the grid. So there is a layer for a business case, but it's a stacked business case, of course. And we're looking and experimenting with tariffs as well. So next year we are in touch with our regulations department, and we're defining tariff experiments basically. That's another layer. And there was a third layer, but of course when you're in a crowd of 60 people looking at you, you forget it. But we will talk afterwards, and I can recollect it. Everybody who wants to know can connect with me as well.
there's a second question, please.
Hi. What would you say to other DSOs who are interested in implementing flexibility, but maybe they're a little bit hesitant to do so because there's unknown variables involved because it's a relatively new thing?
So your question is about how to involve other DSOs and make sure that the hesitation gets away. So in a way, of course, it's still ground to cover and ground to explore, but it can help. So the first simulation show you as such. We're collaborating with quite a cool initiative. It's a hackathon, the Odyssey Hackathon, where we create multiple simulations, multiple environments. You can really tailor your environment as a foreign DSO, and we can simulate how Flex can work with the tariffing, with the assets, with the algorithms. So basically, first it's more a desk research kind of thing, but actually doing it also learns you a lot. So start small and just start doing it and learn from each other, basically. It's an open source way of thinking. We're open with everything. No IP. It's a forbidden word.
Thank you, Arjen.